most people in the Bay, punk rock may not be a part of their life, but for punks and punk rock music, the Bay has always been a huge influence on the music and the culture. The Bay may not have had the first scene, that title will always be held by England and the Sex Pistols. But when punk rock hit San Francisco in 1977, the scene quickly made a name for itself, with bands that were more creative and arguably more influential than any other scene. I interviewed Steve DePace, a member of the band Negative Trend and the drummer for the band Flipper, about what it was like in the early days of punk rock in San Francisco.
The scene in San Francisco was more eclectic and more diversified than any other scene that I came across. There were people from all walks of life. There were writers and poets and musicians of all kinds, and all of those people just happened to be sort of in the general same age bracket and all came together under the banner of punk rock and this punk movement.
In 1978, the Sex Pistols played a concert in San Francisco with Negative Trend and the Avengers. Sadly, this would be the Sex Pistols' last show, but from there, punk rock would explode across the Bay. No discussion of music is complete without discussing the Dead Kennedys. Formed in 1978 in San Francisco, the Dead Kennedys, along with Black Flag from Los Angeles, led the hardcore movement, which swept across the U.S. and influenced the international community. The Dead Kennedys were the first punk band to bring extreme politics to their lyrics, singing against the rich elite, police brutality, political corruption, social injustice, and what is accepted as the social norms, and setting the tone of the entire hardcore movement that was to follow.
The 80s rolled around, hardcore kind of took hold throughout the country, and all the different scenes that were happening in the different cities across the country were more, hardcore, skinhead, fast thrash.
As the 80s ended, so did the rise of the hardcore movement. Bands broke up and new bands like Operation Ivy, NoFX, Good Riddance, Christ on Parade, along with veterans of the early days, built the punk rock scene we know today, mixing hardcore, ska, and some street punk, keeping at its core an attitude of anarchy and a love of punk rock music. Today, Bay punk bands continue making great music, with seasoned veterans that have been doing this for over 20 years and bands that are just starting to make a name for themselves. So what is this punk thing about, really?
You just gotta go out and make music that's fun, entertaining, maybe have some message, just get out and do it, and that's always been the punk rock ethos.
And that's it. So go to a show, buy an album, and listen to some great music being made in the community around you.
Everything gonna be alright. Another East Bay night.